Hi there, it's David Young, the Resourceful Coach, and we're going to talk a little bit today is about your short game, and we're going to emphasize sort of working on how to become a single-figure golfer from inside 40 yards. So if you've watched some of my videos before, my main emphasis in my coaching is around data. It's understanding what you actually need to achieve to play to a certain level. And the majority of my golfers that come to me have been playing a while. I very rarely teach total beginners. And they'll come to me and say, look, I want to be a certain level. And what I've compiled is this data to show you anywhere on the golf course, on average, how many shots it should take you for your level to get the ball into the hole. And what we're going to focus on today is that sort of single figure golfer, that player shooting around about 80, so 8-9 handicap. And we're going to really focus on the short game. And we're going to look at data and we're going to look at technique to make you play those shots correctly. So here's our first shot. We're going to look at a 40-yard pitch onto the green. And what we've got in front of us here, we've got about 30 yards of fairway and then a little bit of a ridge before we get to the green. And then we've got about 10 yards, about 30 feet of green running up to the hole. So all in all, a 40-yard shot. So here's the first thing we need to look at. And what I say to most of my golfers is, look, what do you want to achieve from the shot? And a lot of it is always technique. And what I want you to think about is, what do I need to achieve as a result? So here's where my data comes in. So what would be what I call a maintainer? What would maintain the level? If I was 40 yards away, how far should I be from that hole to maintain a single figure golfer's ability? And I would look to get the ball somewhere between 10 and 15 feet, and I would comfortably be playing single figure golf. So that's our starting point. What we're going to work out is, how do I do that? What's the best shot for me to get that result? And just to confirm the data, just to sort of get clear in your mind what we should achieve from this position. On average, from here, I'm probably going to get the ball in the hole in 3 shots as a single figure golfer, 3 shots around about 80 to 90% of the time. So only 10 to 20% of the time am I going to get this ball in the hole in 2 shots. Now, I don't want you to ever get away from playing the best possible shot that you can play. That's always the number one thing. We're never saying to you, deliberately hit it 15 feet away. If you can put it 2 feet from the hole, or you can hole it, go for it. But realize, if you don't achieve the best shot you've ever done from this position, 15 feet is going to keep you in that point where you are playing single figure golf. And why this is important for me is it gets your mind in a much calmer state. It takes the pressure off you. And then what you start thinking about is, what have I got to do to achieve the result that I want to do? So let's look at our 40-yard shot. We've now got that information to help us to understand what's an okay shot. What do I want to do with the actual shot? Well, for me, the best surface on the golf course invariably is the green. So if you've looked at any of my other chipping videos, I always encourage you to land the ball on the green where possible. I call it my 2-step rule, which basically means land it at least 2 steps onto the green, and then you should get a consistent bounce from there. And that's why I want you to land it on the green. You land it short, especially we're on a December day here in the UK, quite wet in front of the green there. It could bounce all over the place. So the best surface should be the green. So look to land the ball on the green. So that's my first idea. That's going to decide which of the clubs that I've got here that I'm going to use and play the shot. So I'd look at that, and that's the minimum. Okay, if I can land it a bit further up the green, even better. And the reason why I have that 2-step rule, as we said, it's the best surface on the green, on the course, but if I underhit it, I might underhit it by a pace or 2. I still might land on the front and still end up okay. So that's why we have that sort of mental rule. So now looking at it, I'm thinking, well, playing single figure golf, if you're able to hit the ball correctly, we can probably stop that ball, let's say, in 20 feet. So we can land this ball at least 4 paces onto the green. That's the first thing we're looking at. So that's making a decision in my mind of the shot that I'm going to play. And I've got 2 clubs here. I've got my pitching wedge and I've got my gap wedge. And these are the clubs I will encourage you to use a lot on the shots that we're going to go through. Unless we have to go high, there's no real reason. But if you are very good at using a lob wedge around the green, please use it. But we're going to show you the simplest way to play these shots. So I've got a mental picture now of landing it around about, relative to our hole, about 1/3 of the way up the green, and then it's going to roll the other 2/3. So for me, I can do that with my gap wedge. So I've got my 52 degree, and that's the club that I'm going to use. And all I'm doing now is picturing that shot. Now, first thing, if I stand here with a 52 degree and do a full swing, I can hit this well over double that distance. So I've now got to start to feel the shot. So this is where the setup becomes really important. And what I want to do when I'm setting up to the ball is make sure that my alignment's good, my ball position's good, but also I can sort of sense through my feet the sort of power that I'm going to put into the shot. And what I mean by that is the width of your stance. If I was going to say to you, throw a ball, and you were going to throw it, say I was just going to throw it to the camera, I'd probably go quite narrow in my stance, underarm throw it back to you. I wouldn't stand here full power to throw it back to that camera, okay? So same thing when you're pitching a ball. If you suddenly realize that club is more powerful than the distance that you've got to go, start to bring in the power with your feet. Start to reduce the energy in your feet. Don't go so wide. The wider you are, the more likely you are to sort of have to then decelerate as you go into the shot. I want a nice crisp strike. So when I play the shot, I tend to go a little bit narrower. Stance probably only 2/3 the width of a normal stance. And then I want to feel the length of the swing to land that ball up onto the green. So there, strike down, play up. Okay, I've played that a little bit firm, but because the green is quite soft, I've ended up going around about 10 feet past. But that's okay, because that's inside my area. I'm quite happy with that. So really important to understand what we're doing. Now, this is the big thing. Learn from the shot. I felt the connection was lovely, but I overhit it. So now let your instincts kick in. Decide what you're going to do on the shot. So I'm not going to change the technique. I'm just going to let my instincts change and see if I can then reduce the power on the shot. And in doing that, we've got the power a little bit better, a little bit to the left, but now we're only about 6-8 feet away. But that's still around about where I want to be, okay? I'm still only going to hole from 10 feet, 20% of those putts, from 8 feet, maybe 30%. So that's a little bit better than a single figure golfer, but it's okay. I think that's the important thing to understand. So the importance is, as we go through this, is understanding the technique of how we play each shot and realize what we're looking to do as we set up to the ball. So let's just go through that technique. We've mentioned the lack of power. We've mentioned bringing down that power with the feet. The next thing I want to do is make sure that when I set up to ball, my ball position's correct. So I tend to play all my little shots around the green pretty central to my stance, or maybe even a little bit back in my stance. And what that does, it encourages me to strike down on the ball to then get the grooves through the golf ball. And the main thing I want to do is I want to keep the club going through, and that gives me the energy of the shot. And then I can learn what the ball's doing. That's the important thing. So from there, a little bit back in my stance, hands will feel like they're just favouring the front of the ball. And from there, back and through. And that gives me the contact. That one's landed pretty much on the area, but again, around about that 8 to 10 feet away. So really, really happy with those results because I'm now inside my area. I always want to improve, but as long as I'm inside that area, relax your mind, stay in a nice focused position, and it gives you that opportunity to play the shot. So that's our 40-yard shot from a fairway position. What we're going to look at a little bit now, let's go up to a 20-yard shot and see what that looks like and how we might change the club and change the decision of how we're playing it to get the result we want, and look at that data to see how much closer we need to get it from around about 20 yards. So here's our second shot. We're going to look now at a 20-yard pitch and just standard shot. We're over the edge of the green there. Grass is okay. We've got a bit of green to work with, but it's important to understand what's a good shot. So let's start with the data. What would be a good shot from 20 yards? Well, we're looking about 7 to 8 feet. And it's still a shot that on average, I'm probably going to take more times I'm going to get down in 3 than get down in 2. So that's really important to understand. But flag stick length, you can see, just a little bit taller than me, about 6 feet or so. If we can get it inside a flag stick length, that's a great shot. Flag and a half, that's about what I should be doing. So, got 3 clubs I could use because of the amount of green I've got. I've got my gap wedge again, I've got my pitching wedge, got my 8-iron. Let's see what we can do. We're going to do exactly the same technique. So what you saw on the first shot, I'm not changing the technique. The only thing I might change is the length of swing to reduce the power, because now I'm going 20 yards rather than 40. Got plenty of green to work with. So on this situation, do I need to go high? Not really. Because it's slightly downhill, I'm actually going to stick with the same club. I'm going to stick with my gap wedge, and the technique you've watched before, just copy that again. Let's see if we can get it within that sort of 6 to 8 feet. So as I said, quite a bit of green to work with here. Ball's on a very slight downhill lie. And again, because of winter conditions, I want to get that ball landing onto the green. Nice gap wedge. Let's see if we can roll it down. Anything, as I said, looking to play the best possible shot. But if I can get this within 8 feet, that's fine. Okay. So it's running down there, probably just outside. So 10 feet. But again, what we say, 60, 70% of the time, you're going to two-putt that. That's still pretty much what you should be doing as a single-figure golfer. So this is really important to understand that, okay? If I was practicing it, it's like a little mini challenge. Can I beat it? But technique was good. I'm playing off the back foot into that position. See if we can beat it. See what we get. On this occasion, running on a little bit. Let's see what we got. Might have just gone out of the camera shot, that. Don't know if that stayed in. But I think they're about equal distance. So what did we say? 7 to 8 feet. Roughly a pace for me is 2.5 feet. Let's see what we got. 1, 2, 3, just under 4, about 9 feet. 1, 2, 3, and again. So I've chipped those balls down. That's about what I should be doing as a single figure golfer. So that 20-yard shot, get it inside 10 feet, anything around, as I said, 7, 8 feet, you're doing great. I've done all right there. But what would happen on that data if you were now playing a similar length of shot, but you're playing out quite thick rough? It's going to make a big difference, but let's have a look at that shot. So here's our third shot. I've ended up in the rough, not a great lie, as you can see from the picture we've taken of it. And let's look at the data. Let's look at how this is going to affect my shot. If you remember, from 20 yards, I was going to, on average, take about 2.6 shots. From 40 yards, 2.8. I'm now about 30 yards or so away in the rough, and this is going to increase my shot by around about half a shot from that lie. About a third to half a shot. So from this position, I'm going to take, on average, about 3.2 shots. So this means, on average, I'm still going to get down in 3 more often than not, about 80% of the time, but 20% of the time, I might get down in 4 shots. Probably only a 2-3% chance I might get this down in 2. And the reason for that is I've lost control of the ball. It's in the thick rough. It's a little bit harder to control. So the key thing to understand, what is a good result then? 30 to 40 feet. So if we look at the shot we've got about probably 45 feet from the edge of the green to the flag, and about 20 feet or so the other side of the flag. So in the direction I'm going, any ball, if I get the direction pretty good and it ends up on the green, I've done brilliantly. That's the key thing. I'm inside that 40 feet. I'll take that. Now, what am I going to do differently with the shot? Not a lot. The only thing I'm actually changing here, I've gone from my gap wedge to now a lob wedge. And the reason for that is I want a little bit more elevation from the ball, from the loft of the club. And by using a lob wedge, I can use that to hopefully get a bit of a stop at the other end. It's going to be very hard to get lots of backspin on this ball because there's so much grass going to be between the club face and the grooves, in a sense, so the club face, sorry, in the ball. So I'm going to lose that grip. So the importance is to understand, I'm going to lose that, but if I can get a bit more elevation, that might help me to stop it. The one thing I want to do here is I don't really want to go over the other side of the green because I'm giving myself another pitch. So 30 feet away, I'll take that, okay? Technically, I'm going to play it back in my stance like I did the one earlier. We're feeling the club going up to strike down into the shot. Anywhere on that green's a good result. Let's see what we can get. Okay, so happy with that. I've got it out onto the green. I'm probably around that 30-foot mark away from the hole. I back myself more often than not as a single figure golfer to get that down in 2, but probably now about a 10% chance I might get down in 3. So that's about a par shot. That's going to maintain my score. The thing to look at, don't be annoyed that that ball hasn't got close. It's the fact I put it here in the first place that's cost me. So there's 3 shots we've done. We're going to do a final shot. Not so much a technical shot, more of a mental shot. But let's go and have a look at it. So I've come to our 4th shot for these shots around the green and how we can play to single figures. And we've just gone back to the original shot, which is a 40-yard pitch. We've stuck a pond in the way. But the data doesn't change. It's a 40-yard pitch. We can still land the ball around about 30, 32 yards towards the hole, and we've got 8 to 10 yards of roll to get up to the flag. So the end result is still the same. The data is still the same. We're looking at a shot that on average, 80% of the time we're going to get down in 3, but 20% of the chance as a single figure golfer, we may get down in 2 shots. So you just mentally play it the same way. What golfers are very good at is looking at the danger and allowing that to dictate what they're doing. But if you can stick to the technique of a standard 40-yard pitch, you can play this shot. So I've gone back to my sort of gap wedge. I'm going to play the ball slightly back in my stance. I'm going to feel the shot. So I'm doing all the things I did from the standard lie. And I'm just going to commit to that idea. And if we can get that ball up somewhere around about 10, 15 feet, we've played a good shot. So we're over the trouble. Yeah, it's probably run around about 10 feet past the hole. So I've achieved my goal. So what's important to understand is look at the data we've given you and really go back and look at my 12 shots of golf and all of the videos that I've done on that. And you can look at the scratch, the 8 handicapper, so the player shooting around 80 and the player shooting 90. And you can look at that data and work out what's good shots. You can start to put that together. But it's really important that you don't get that expectation level way too high or you worry about the result of your shot. Understand what's a good shot, play to it, always encouraging you to play your best possible shot. But if you end up in that area where you think, as I said, even from here, if you ended up 20 feet away, as we said, 80% of the time, you're going to take 3 from here. From 20 feet as a single figure golfer, you're going to 2-putt that near enough 100% of the time. So the important thing to understand is give yourself that chance. And the worst case scenario, you're going to be down in 3 from here. And you're playing single figure golf. That's the important thing to understand. I hope you enjoyed today's tips, going through how to become that single figure short game player from 20, 40, out of the rough, over hazards. If you have enjoyed it, please subscribe and share this with your friends.